back, everyone. Today we are interviewing Jessica Terzakis for our Creative Side Businesses for Women Summit. So welcome, Jessica.
Hello, Carrie. Hello, everyone catching this interview. I'm super excited to be here and can't wait to dig in.
Me too. For those of you who've never met Jessica, I'll give you a little background. So she is a content creator with Terzakis and Associates. She helps entrepreneurs monetize their brilliance, and she has guided her clients in being better communicators so that they can create lucrative programs, allowing them to break out of the one-on-one client work, which we usually start with, but I know a lot of entrepreneurs want to break free from that and create unlimited income potential for their business and maximize the profit that they can make from speaking. So as a former teacher, and what grade did you used to teach?
I taught ninth grade, which is, yeah, that's like the gauntlet for teaching, right?
Yes. So, as a former teacher, she has been featured on a premier podcast, spoken on stages, and led her own virtual program showing entrepreneurs how to package their genius. And today, Jessica is talking to us about how to create content for qualified leads, as well as how to convert them into paying clients. Can't wait. Okay, I have a lot of questions. So, first of all, is it just the service-based entrepreneurs that you primarily focus on, or the product-based as well?
I think it can be both. It's easier for service-based because that's the need readily apparent, right? It's like I've got to sell something and it's going to be something around my expertise. What's interesting about product-based businesses is adding in a component of content creation for, say, a course or a group coaching program emerges because I was talking with someone who she has a subscription box, right? And I remember talking to her and I was like, well, that's one stream of income,
Yeah.
right? But I'm sure you get people asking you like, oh, how did you start your subscription box business? And how do I do this? And how do I do that? And then from that emerged this opportunity for her to teach and mentor other people. So it works for both.
Okay.
And I think it's a really fun addition for product-based businesses.
Right. Okay. So, for a moment, let's just talk about service for just a sec. So, what is the most profitable way for service based entrepreneurs to package their expertise for this year in 2022?
Yes. So I've been around in the online world since about 2017, and I've seen a bunch of different trends, which feels like ancient history
Yeah.
for those of us in the online
Yeah.
space. And I think, what most service-based entrepreneurs need is a one-on-one, some sort of like one-on-one consulting, some sort of like done for you, like some sort of done with you kind of service. But then, right, if you're looking to scale, if you're looking to work with more people, can I share, Carrie, the mistake that most people make
Please.
that I
Yes.
would love for you all to avoid
Yeah.
is the mistake is most people jump from that to the digital, passive, self-paced kind of online courses. And the reason for that is I think the marketing is super attractive for them, right? Like create this course and make seven figures and replace, leave your job and step into this course. What I don't think people in this industry are transparent about and very honest about, and that's why I'm sort of taking a stand for all of us here, is creating those digital courses is really time consuming. You usually need some sort of tech budget, you usually need help putting it together. And more importantly, you need a following. Who are you launching this to?
Yeah.
Right. And so
Right.
what I suggest to people is like there's a middle ground.
Mhm.
And that middle ground is group coaching. And I think now more than ever in 2022, and I want you all on this to hear me, right? Your potential clients, your followers, they are looking for someone that they can connect with, that they will have access to. They do not necessarily want to figure everything out on their own, right? And there is such an opportunity for all of you to harness that energy and harness that desire in a group coaching capacity and serve people, in that way, because chances are they've probably tried getting help before. They don't want to figure things out on their own. And so that's why I recommend go in the middle, stick with group coaching programs. They are super lucrative right now.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And what do you think is the best way to market or fill your offers?
Yes. Well, so here, this is my favorite conversation. And actually, one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation point was I used to focus totally on just let's put your offer together and then good luck. Go ahead, put it out there. But then the emerging need came like, how do I fill this? And there's lots of different strategies. And I think one of the things that people are overlooking, right? There's speaking, there's referrals, there's past clients, there's all of those high touch opportunities. And I think the one thing that most of my clients have resisted in the past and has been the most overlooked opportunity for them is social media content. And we could dig into that, Carrie. Like you dig in as far as you want with me on that.
Okay.
But the reason why I'm suggesting that, and the reason why some of you may be like tilting your heads as you're listening to this, like, I hate social media, or it doesn't work, or I'm a private person, like, how could this work for me? I've seen some pretty awesome stuff happen when clients of mine have been consistent in talking on social media and sharing their expertise and posting consistently to create a like, know, and trust factor.
Yeah.
And it makes filling your offers and converting those potential followers into clients so much easier. It makes your sales conversation so much more fun. It makes, other people come to you and invite you as guest speakers. And so the gap that I see most people in right now is they've got this amazing offer, they commit to doing group coaching programs, and they make it drips and drabs of people.
Yeah.
Right. And so their first one may be great, but then they try and launch it a second time to crickets. Right. Or they try and launch it and it's like, I can't find any speaking gigs. I rely too heavily on referrals. And so what do? The gap is you need to be consistently visible on social media, on your platform of choice, and that's what's going to make it so much easier to fill it.
And what is your social media platform of choice? Where do you find your people?
I'm in the minority. I love Facebook.
Me too.
Yeah, most people are like, they hate Facebook or they love Instagram or they're on TikTok or LinkedIn. But I have found, and this is where I kind of go against maybe what some of the social media experts say. I think it's like, you've got to pick the platform where you know that you can be consistent, you know that you can show up, you know that's where your ideal clients are. A mentor of mine said this really good quote. Can I share it with you?
Yeah.
And they said, intensity makes a good story, right? Intensity of like, I'm going to post 5 times a day, or I'm going to commit to posting on every single platform. And you're really good with it. It's like Whole30. You're good with it for 30 days. And then after, it's just not sustainable. Mm-hmm. Whereas consistency gets you results.
Yes. I know so many of us do that. We fall into this trap of, okay, let's try TikTok. Okay, let's do Instagram at the same time. All right, Pinterest, what's Pinterest? Oh my gosh, I forgot about LinkedIn. And they're trying to do everything all at once. And you're right, it's about the 30-day mark where you're like, oh, it's just too overwhelming. It's too much to keep up with. And you got to be where your customers are, right? But B, you're right. Where do you like to hang out, and where would you be most consistent? And I think that's a very good point.
That I don't think is part of the conversation, which is, where do you want to hang out? Because I think most of us look at social media and social media content creation as this chore. We don't like doing it. And so we kick and scream, in having to do it. And so what if we could turn that around and say, actually, I really like this platform and I'm going to embrace it because I know that's where my ideal clients are. And I'm going to just commit to, like, I post 3 times a week. I don't post every day. Mm-hmm. It's the consistency that matters, though.
Yes, that's right. Very good. Very good point. So how do we make ourselves unique and stand out on social media? Because, there's just a million of us out there, like, doing the exact same thing. So how do we make ourselves stand out?
I love this conversation point. In fact, Carrie, as before we got on live for this interview, we were talking about the 3-day event that I just ran. And like, this was the centerpiece of it, because most of you listening to this, most of you who've been in business or are newer to business, there's no shortage of people telling you need to create content. So I think we all acknowledge that. I think the question is, how do we shift into standing out, right? How do we create content that actually gets people to stop scrolling? And I'll tell you, it's shifting away from the teaching energy, and I'll explain what that means. It's shifting out of teaching energy into, I'm looking to connect with you emotionally. I'm looking to get you to feel something when you read my content. I'm looking to inspire you. I'm looking to make you feel frustrated and want to change your situation. I'm looking to make you feel potentially sad that you're missing out on an opportunity and your potential, and there's something that you can do about it. Mm-hmm. And I think the more that you get into, and I'll give all of you an example of what that looks like.
Sure.
I think the more that you get out of that kind of clinical, processy, here's how you meditate better, or here's 3 steps to taking better pictures, and more into let me connect with you as a person and as a human, you are going to see your engagement and your conversions just increase from there.
Hmm. That's interesting because you're right. A lot of people are saying that it needs to be educational and you have to give people something to read about, but it is the connection piece that's lacking. You're right.
Well, and why isn't connecting emotionally? You're still educating,
Yeah.
right? So here's an example. If I were to stay in what I'm calling the teaching energy, which I did for years and it did nothing for me, which is I could tell you, here's how you put together your modules for your group coaching program, right? And here are the 5 steps to avoiding overstuffing your offer and making you feel like you have to give everything away, which is a thing most people feel. And I'd be like, here's how you put your modules together. Here's how you decide how many steps. That's like very clinical,
Yeah.
where it's like process based.
Yeah.
And that didn't get me very much engagement because everyone else is saying the same thing.
Right.
What I started to do instead was have a more interesting conversation around, well, wait a second. If the reason I'm putting this post together is because people feel like they have to give everything away, wouldn't that be a more engaging conversation to have? Like, why do you feel like you have to give everything away? Why do you have to feel like you have to put every single piece of information you've learned together into a program? And that's the only way that you could charge a high premium for it. That's a more interesting conversation. And I created this post and I said, you know, the reason why you feel like you have to give everything away is because you either don't trust your offer, right? You're worried that people are going to ask for refunds. And so I went into the why, like, why are you doing this? And why are you approaching the process this way? And I'll tell you, Carrie, I had 2 people reach out to me reciting a line from that. And they were like, oh my God, when you said this or when you wrote it this way, like I had to reach out to you because that's exactly what I've been doing. And now it makes sense for why I'm doing it. That's how you create content that stands out.
Okay. You're onto something there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I know for many of us, when you're an entrepreneur, you wear many, many, many hats. And, you know, creating content's just one more thing you've got to do. Some people can look at it as a very tedious job. So how do we make it fun and profitable?
Yes. First of all, I would say, you know, the pre-answer to this is you can absolutely have people help you. You can certainly hire, you know, there's lots of really skilled people like VAs and copywriters, but I would say don't outsource your content creation entirely. And so I think kind of like how we were just having that conversation, like now we're digging into the answer, Carrie. When you said, I think we can actually pick a platform we like, right? Like which platform do you like, right? And figure out which one it is and then double down on that. I think what's missing in people's content is talking about the things that they enjoy doing, the Netflix show that they just watched, the dinner that they just went to, and connecting that to your teaching, connecting that to what your ideal client is going through. Because when you infuse those pieces of yourself, and this doesn't have to be about the saddest moment in your life. It doesn't have to be about the most vulnerable decision, right? Like I don't talk about anything really personal. One of my best performing pieces of content was a story I told about eating too many chips and salsa at a Mexican restaurant. Right. And so I think in terms of making content fun, what's feeling tedious about it is you feel like your content's boring. It's like I sound like everybody else. Like I just feel like I'm throwing things into the void. Whereas if you're telling stories and you're connecting with people emotionally and you're like, this is something that happened to me over the weekend and this is what I learned from it. And I think you as my followers, people who are potential clients, here's what you can learn from it too. That's the shift.
Right. Okay. That's a good point. So I have another question. So why do you think that most entrepreneurs struggle to fill their offers?
Plain and simple, they completely lack visibility. And I think, you know, I had an honest conversation, Carrie, and I'll have that honest conversation with some of you here listening to this. We are potentially going into a recession here in the States, right? The economy is a little bit challenging, I think, worldwide for a lot of people. I know a lot it's the top of mind elephant in the room that a lot of us are like, what do we do about this? And how do we work our way through it? And I was saying to the attendees that came to my event, I said, for most service-based entrepreneurs, right, economies like this can go one of 2 ways for people. The people who really, they thrive, they get clients, their business does well, it's because they have visibility. They have created the like, know, and trust factor,
Mhm.
right? Those who choose not to be visible, to not put themselves out there on social media, to not share content, to not send emails, and just kind of wait for a referral or two to come in and kind of wait for a speaking gig to come, it will be very tough.
Mhm.
And so that is why I feel this urgency in a way, Gary, to say to people, right? I went through that in 2020,
Mhm.
right? I was nervous to be online. I didn't want to put my face out there. I didn't want to be on Facebook at all or any social media platform. And that was one of the hardest years in my business,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And if I can share that with anyone who's on this and say, look, you have a great offer, put yourself out there, be visible, develop that like, know, and trust factor now,
Mhm.
and you'll be in a much better place to ride out this economy to wherever it's going to lead us.
And how do we become more visible? What do we do?
Pick the platform of your choice, commit to whatever you believe is consistent and doable for you. Even if it's just posting 2 times a week, I'd rather see you be consistent than not post anything at all.
Right.
Connect, tell stories. And when you do that, you will see over time, it will absolutely pay off.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And so if you think back to, you said you've been doing this since 2017, like the
Mhm.
online space. If you think back to your 2017 self, what would you tell yourself? Knowing what's coming with COVID and with all the wonderful recessions and all that lovely stuff, what would you tell yourself back then?
What would I not tell myself? Do not dismiss the value of social media. I absolutely look down upon it. I was an English teacher. I was an academic, Carrie. I was like, I'm too good for social media. All I would post are these cute pictures of my German Shepherd, who I love, but it's like, let's face it, this German Shepherd's not going to fill my program, right?
Yeah.
So I would say if I could go back in time, it would be start having a conversation about your topic, start sharing stories, start connecting now, and don't dismiss the value of people watch. You may not get all the likes, but I can promise you people are watching and your ideal clients are looking for someone like you to show up for them.
Yes. Yeah, that's a pretty good tip. That's pretty good. And is there any final thoughts, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
I think it's just that you all have something valuable to share and to say. And I think that, people are willing to listen. People want to hear from you. And so I wouldn't diminish that. Right. So I can't wait to connect with all of you. I hope to see your content showing up in my feed. And thank you so much, Carrie, for having me on.
My pleasure. Thanks, Jessica.